Hello there. Welcome to episode 7 of the Way Back Rehab podcast. Today we are speaking about how poetry and art, or at least your perception of it, can help you on your rehabilitation journey. So this idea that was brought up on another podcast that I follow. It's a guy called Alain de Botton. He's a very famous sort of intellectual and philosopher and has a lot of very interesting ideas about life and the human condition and everything like that. And he spoke about how, in making a point, he spoke about how Japanese poetry, so 4-line or 3-line poetry, like a haiku, which some of you may have heard of, is written in such a way that it is intentionally simple. So to a Western observer, it might feel like a bit childish or trivial. But the idea in Eastern traditions is that art can be intentionally simple. You also might see something like a type of calligraphy where people paint or draw things with a single brushstroke. So to try to draw a circle where the brush stays on the page the whole time or something. So the point is that the work is intentionally simple and the meaning comes from a collaboration between the observer and the work. In the Western world, we essentially want everything to be given to us. So the meaning of art, the outcome of an exercise, whatever it is, we want it to be very evident so we can consume it and get it, and it is given to us by something else, something or someone else. The Eastern tradition is that, in this artistic example, is that you have to bring your own ideas and your own experiences and your own reflections to the work to get something from it. And I think rehabilitation should be like that as well. Rehabilitation, movement training, all of that. And this is something that I have sort of returned to in my own coaching a little bit more recently, is that I sometimes worry. I tend to give people a lot of exercises. People that have been with me for like 18 to 24 months, sometimes we may go over the same things. And I used to feel like, oh, I can't give this same exercise to this client again. They've done it before. They're going to get bored of it. But ultimately, movement is movement, and you can return to it again and again with a deeper level of knowledge and understanding. So if I give someone a simple movement like a spine segmentation or a hip circle or a shoulder rotation or some version of like a plank or whatever it is, how that person can develop within the confines of that movement is they can bring their own depth to it, So while the movement may be simple on a sort of external viewpoint, you can go deep, So within a movement, you can focus on your breath, your body position, your what's happening at your foot, your hand pressure, your foot pressure, your eye pressure. There are so many ways to bring awareness to a movement. And what often happens with movement and training, and especially rehab, is that people will do a movement a few times and think, okay, I have that mastered. It's done. I can, dust my hands off with it because I have completed it. And now I have to get on to the next movement, which will help me develop further and further. And yes, progression is important, but progression isn't just doing more movements and more reps and getting, objectively progressively more difficult and difficult, but also going back to the basics and getting better at those basics again and again and again. And that is sort of my initial example of returning to something simple, and you are the one that brings the depth, You dive into a simple movement and give it everything you got, And even though you may be doing it, quote unquote, well or getting better at it, there are still layers to learn and understand about it. And this is what a lot of people lack in their movement and training journeys, is that they actually develop a level of competency at relatively basic movements, and then they sort of end up going through the motions with those movements for the rest of their days, Whereas in reality, the lifelong learner or the curious physical trainee is actually bringing loads of creativity and curiosity and awareness and intention to the basics and building upon that. Okay, and that is the idea of how this outlook on Japanese poetry and Eastern art, if you take that idea that you're the one that brings the depth, not just the exercise, that's how you can 10x your rehabilitation results, because that means that every rep, every set, every session across months and years become deeper. Okay, and you don't need 30 exercises in a week, but you could bring a high degree of depth to 10 and get a lot from it. Okay, and for most people in a world of training information where we are in the proverbial buffet, we can pick and choose from whatever we like. It actually helps to, especially if we went through a period of trying a lot of different things, to trim the fat in our training, as it were, and go really deep on these concepts that we can repeat again and again and again. And that is that yin and yang, to use another Eastern concept of training, that yes, we need variety and all of those things, but we also need depth and being good at the basics and carrying that general ethos that we as the trainee should be bringing depth to the exercise, not expecting the exercise to do everything for us. Okay. And yes, that is it for today. A little nugget that I think is important in the training world. And if anyone does ever go into an art gallery or museum or contemporary art gallery in the future and think, I don't get it, try to think, what can I bring to it? Don't ask the work to do everything for you. Try and meet it halfway. Bring your own experiences, thoughts, and ideas. And yeah, you'll get to a much better place. And see you all for the next episode.